could have pursued legal action, I could have pursued, but the realization for me was, bro, I had no cash to even think about it. I was getting depressed by the day, and for me to go fight for like 20k worth of stock just didn't seem worth it. And people are going through crap every single day of their lives. The ones that are winning are the ones that can distinguish the good from the bad and focus on growth opportunities. One of the key parts of our story is that I ended up being negative 80k in debt with no real job. I think I was working 4 jobs to try and get by, whilst trying to keep the dream alive. Literally took this risk, and we emptied, like, I can't even express like how broke we were at that point after emptying our accounts to buy this collection. So realistically, we try and focus on being the same people, and we try to remember where we came from, and we try to remind ourselves of what it was like when we had nothing. And that you, like, when you can come to terms with that, like, we're just not better than anyone, man. No one is better than anyone.
So that together we have clarity, direction, and success way beyond what we ever previously thought possible. Here's your host, Frankie Lee.
First things first, guys, before we get started with this podcast, do me a solid favor and subscribe to this on whatever platform you're listening to it right now. Whether that's YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, I'd appreciate if you just hit that subscribe button, and it lets me know that the content that I'm putting out for you guys is hitting your ears at the right time. Much love. This podcast is sponsored by contentremoval.com. So whether you're looking to remove any images, videos, search results, fake Instagram accounts, get in touch with us at contentremoval.com. Welcome back to the Frankie Lee podcast. Today, guys, we have the man who has been avoiding me like Sugar Ray Leonard in the DMs. Let me tell you, the man, the myth, the legend, the man who took Stax, took himself from 80k in debt to creating Stax, turn it into a $30 million a year business. The man, the myth, the legend, Don Robertson is here. He's here. He's actually here.
Bro, mad. Thank you so much. Hey, look, sorry for the fuck around, man. Like, mate, I think we were just chatting about it. Like, just trying to link up and make things happen is important to me. So I'm glad that you persisted and mate, didn't get the shits with me about it. So
mate,
thank you so much.
I didn't get the shits with you. But one thing I will say before we start, I had a full head of hair before I tried to book you, and then since that, it's all fucking gone.
No, that's embarrassing, man. Because I've looked at some of your guests and I'm like, man, if these people can make time, like, it's just what we have to do. You know, I have this thing, like, and it's something I discuss often with my team. Like, when people say they don't have time, like, we all have time, right? Yeah, I'm just fixated on this concept of time, and people saying they don't have time. But we need to make time, right? Like, we need to create time. There's so much time that we just waste in a day, and that's something I'm trying to focus on. So, like, we got here, and I'm just really grateful that you persisted. So thank you.
No, I appreciate. Like I said, I appreciate you coming on. Now, obviously, like with you, before we even start, the first thing I've got to say to you is, and the audience is, you're a newly married man, right?
Yeah, man.
So how has life changed being a newly married man and running a business? Is there a lot more like? Because I don't know this, you see, so I've got to ask.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on your situation. Like, Matilda, my wife, that's as strange as it gets. Like,
yeah,
the label.
That's the first time you said it on the podcast, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. It's actually, I mean, everyone knows us, right? So I don't have to introduce her as my wife. That's as crazy as it gets, man. Like, we've been together for 5 or 6 years. We've been engaged for 3. We've been trying to get married throughout the pandemic, and all these plans kept happening and changing, and through the period we've built Stax to what it is today, and we've bought property together. So nothing has changed.
Nothing's changed
at this point. It's just really the title. But I mean, we were actually discussing it recently. I don't know, like, there's like a little thing. There's like a little energy between us or whatever that sort of feels a bit elevated or elite. I don't know how to describe it, but life hasn't really changed, man. It's just great.
That's beautiful.
We're very happy. We're very happy. I'm just glad we got to get it done, man. Like, it was such a challenge to try and get married.
the hot, just even reading through your backstory with the business and how the challenge has been, obviously, like losing stuff out at sea and all kinds of different wild stuff's been going on. Let's just take it right back to, like, obviously where you began, because a lot of people see Stax, it's $30 million a year, all this stuff, and that's all well and good. Obviously J-Lo's wearing it, Rita Ora's wearing it, obviously girls all over Australia, I see them in every gym wearing your stuff, so that's fantastic. But people always lose sight of the fact that you started in Perth from your mum's spare room, and before you even started there, I believe that you had another brand that was called like Muscle Stax or something along those lines, that was selling supplements. So Stax didn't even start as a clothing brand, right?
Yeah, it's I mean, it's funny because you sort of get to this point now where things are really working out, and we're super focused on the business. But with the success, people want to do interviews and podcasts and discussions, and I haven't really thought that deep into, or I never think that deep into the journey until we sit down and have these conversations. Then every now and then something else pops up. But like when I think about where it started, it started from a gym that I used to work in back in, I think, 2011, 2012, and I started in the gym as a gym receptionist, right?
Yeah.
I think I tried to study PT at the time, but I flunked that course. I fucked that off. It wasn't for me. And then, through the process, the gym had a cafe, and I started helping out with the cafe and started working in that. It wasn't a well-managed gym, I must add, so it was kind of easy to get involved in quite a few things. And pretty much saw an opportunity to sell supplements from the gym. So I pretty much did that, sold supplements, not Stax supplements or not personal supplements, just the kind of supplements you find in a store, right? And
just generics, like you could pick like anything off ASN or anything like that, you'd pick up, just resell it.
Literally, man. And then that sort of grew, and I was doing it out of my car, and I was doing it on social media. Back then, Instagram had just sort of started. It wasn't huge. So Messenger was everything. And then just selling supplements to the people in the gym, really. And I used to play rugby, so I used to sell it to rugby boys. And then, just through that process, that grew. I opened up some accounts with some of the distributors, and I actually managed to get the gym owner to go into, I guess, a bit of a partnership with me in the store. And he gave me the opportunity to open a store in the gym.
So from that then, at this point, Don, without even knowing it, you're learning like how to negotiate partnership deals. You're learning about how to position yourself, as a business within someone else's business. You're learning all these skills that people don't give it credit for when you're starting out.
Bro, the hustler's mentality is something that I think you develop early on, right? I think I'll pause there, because when I really reflect about entrepreneurial tendencies or approaches and stuff, I think back to when I was in, I think year one or year two, and in our school, they would give us like picnic baskets to go and raffle out. And Mum would drive me around, and we'd stop and knock. Back in those days, it was safer to do that. You'd knock at houses and try and sell these tickets to try and hustle these picnic baskets. And I think that's where I learned like hustle. I won the competitions every year in school, and I felt like the sense of achievement. And I think I was like 6 or 7 back then. And I remember that really, really fondly.
That was teaching how to talk to people as well, and how to communicate. A lot of people don't learn these skills.
Man, sales is hard, bro. Like, not many people have worked in retail. Not many people appreciate hospitality or retail, like the ability to take something and sell it. Like, it's not something. It's definitely a skill you need to develop, and it's a confidence thing a lot of people don't have. I don't believe.
It's not something though that inherently is taught within like any school system or this, that, and the other. Like learning sales at school is simply, you're a young lad who wants to meet women, and you have to sell them on the reasons why they should date you in the playground rather than this other geezer down the road. Like, so that's the first interaction that men have with sales, isn't it? When they have to sell themselves in terms of like why they should get the attention of this girl. Like that's literally like the sales apprenticeship in school. And if you that's the way I see it. Like, I don't know about you, but There's not much. Even business. I remember doing business studies at school, Don, and there's nothing that I've implemented in business that's come from that. So it's like people are off to a rough start.
Yeah, I think so. But it's interesting because, like, I think it. I mean, if you just think about that, going back to school, like, I don't know what it was like for you, man, but I went to school in South Africa. So my family didn't have cash, we didn't have money. So if I wanted lollies, or if I wanted, I don't know if you guys played marbles or tops, or whatever it is. Like, from an early age, you're taught to hustle, right? You're taught to trade. Like, I'll give you 5 of my marbles for 3 of your really cool, like, Milky Way marbles. And I think, like, trading has always been there. I think it's something you might actually lose growing up. I don't know what. It's an interesting concept. I haven't really thought about to this point.
I think we're obviously we have play and we have freedom and we have fun when we're growing up, and we kind of forget that as an adult, and we make things more difficult than it has to be. Because, like, what you've just said is inherently true. Like, we're playing and trading. Like, the fastest way for most people to make money is to buy something and then trade it for something more than what they paid for it. And everyone makes the concept of business and the concept of making money really fucking difficult when it doesn't need to be. Like, because
it's value, right?
Yeah, it's take something that's you perceive that value's worth more than what you can pay for it, and buy it and sell it to someone else where the perceived value's higher.
Bro, I think we're, like, on a different wavelength right now, because, like, when you're speaking about that, I'm thinking about, like, value and money, right? Like, people give up on their dreams and business ventures these days because they're fixated on the money aspect. Yeah. But I'm realizing in this conversation that, like, I'm thinking, when I was in year 1, 2, and 3, like, I was trading. Like, I had a value proposition. So if I had cards, if I had something that was more valuable than someone else's, I would trade them, or I'd figure out a way to hustle that. So I accumulated, the best stack of cards or a marble collection. I didn't have money for it. You sort of trade. And I think that's the success in most people's business, right? Like, back to my story. I'm going back and forth we're just going with the conversation. But, like, I look at after the supplement store didn't work out. So a quick summary: I did the supplements for about 2 years. It was going really good. But I was positioned in the gym. But in the gym, I didn't have a contract. I didn't have, I guess you'd say, proof of business operation. But it was all my money. I took out this personal loan to build an e-commerce website because I wanted to replicate the Australian version of bodybuilding.com, right? Yep. We were trying to build out this e-commerce platform. I didn't have a clue. This was before Shopify. And I linked up with these web developers to build out a store on Magento, I think it was. It ended up costing like $21K. But we couldn't sell any product because I couldn't use it myself, right? So anytime I wanted to do something, I had to pay a developer. It's nothing like Shopify these days where you take out a $60 subscription and you can just sell anything.
Yeah, and it can be done in a day, like minimum viable product type stuff.
Man, so I thought I was super, like, I was like a businessman. I was really trying to go through this process and I thought we were going to kill it. But I didn't understand cash flow. And, I started paying and I started running out of money. And when we had no real resources, or I had no way of bringing the money back in. Anyway, the gym ended up going bankrupt. And we were going through, it was a lengthy process. I saw it coming. That's when I realized I've got to do something different in this process. So I really started selling t-shirts, right? I started selling these horrible stringer singlets with a hoodie. But everyone in the community was buying it because I could hustle and I could sell. Yeah. So shout out to anyone from Campbell in Perth if you're listening.
Thanks for buying them horrible hoodies.
Mad respect, man. Like that was, I guess, one of those moments that sort of gave me, I guess, confidence to keep pursuing what I was doing. It worked. And then back to the supplement store, there was a day when we rocked up to the gym, but it had gone into liquidation and the landlord seized the property and we couldn't get in. So ultimately, all my equipment, all my stuff was seized at the same time because I didn't really have any contracts in place to assume that it was mine. I could have pursued legal action. I could have pursued, but the realization for me was, bro, I had no cash to even think about it. I was getting depressed by the day, And for me to go fight for like 20K worth of stock just didn't seem worth it. I didn't have that motivation to go and fight. It wasn't worth it.
That is a great point right there, because you've got to know, as not just in business but as a human being, when to cut your losses with stuff so that you can move forward with what you're going to achieve. And too many people are getting tied up in this constant cycle of trying to fight for things that aren't truly worth fighting for, when they could be fighting to push themselves forward in life.
100%, because someone shared this with me once. They said you never want to steer a sinking ship. You never want to be the captain of a sinking ship, right? And it sits with me. It's like you never want to be involved in something, because we all know when something's not going to work out, right? Like we all have that intuition. We can feel it, but we sometimes try and push ourselves into something because we have egos and we have the fear of failing, and people just don't know when to give up because they think that giving up was the wrong thing to do. You have to know when to just change your course.
Giving up is given a bad rep, but it really empowers you as a human being, because when you give up something, you give yourself an opportunity to do something else. But people never really position it as that. They always see it as they're taking a loss. It's not really. It's empowering you to move forward.
I think we get fixated on failure, man. Like the generation, the world we live in now, where people can microanalyze anyone and just jump on social and bully, and we're all trying to flex on social or something to have some sort of validation. Like, people are afraid of failing. I don't know. In my mind, failure doesn't exist, because it's just an opportunity to try something new.
It's feedback.
Right?
It's constant feedback.
It's refining, it's learning. Matilda and I, the craziest things, things are working out for us, but people don't, in our lives, there's so many things that don't work out. Like this morning I woke up and I thought, the store that we've signed for and everything was good to go. We're ready to rock and roll. I have designers coming in. I had meetings today to try and work on this fit out, whatever. But the deal didn't go. I was in the car on the way to the city to sort it out. And we sort of had a disagreement on the deal, so we pulled out. Yeah. It was a moment where I was pretty disappointed at that moment. But I think experience and I guess a bit of maturity has taught me maybe it's not for us.
It's not the right one. Energetically,
things happen for us, not to us, right? So in that change of thought process, we sort of realized, well, what are our options? We have a deadline, the 25th of February. We have to make something work. This was obviously not meant to be. Let's just shift our attention on making something else work. And to be honest, within 2 hours, we had already picked another location. It blew our expectations. It all fell in place. That was just today. That was just some shit that happened down today, right? And people are going through crap every single day of their lives. The ones that are winning are the ones that can distinguish the good from the bad and focus on growth opportunities. The ones that get stuck, I think, are some of those of us who just focus on things that aren't working out, and you just get stuck in that space.
People put a lot of judgment on themselves, Don, in terms of in their expectations. So say that happened to someone in someone else, and they judge themselves as this is my fault for this is this and this, and then they start to get into negative space, and then they've not thought their way out of the box like you have. You've gone and took that experience and gone, within 2 hours you've fixed another venue. The venue you've got now is probably better than the original venue that you had anyway. You're still up and running, and it's just a little pivot, and that pivot was meant to happen in your life, and you've got to navigate these every single day, as an entrepreneur, as someone like yourself who's trying to blow this brand up. People get too caught up in the small stuff and start sweating it too much.
We can't take ourselves too seriously, man. I think that's that thing where and it's a very challenging thing for us in our generation, because we're all under the microscope, right? Yeah. Your podcast is there for people to listen and criticize. People are listening, but if you say the wrong thing, people are going to have an opinion. Yeah. If you have a guest on that doesn't sit well with someone, they're going to have an opinion. It's the world we live in, but some people just take that to heart, and we take ourselves too seriously. To be honest,
but you'll never get criticised, Don, by anybody who's doing more than you.
100%. Because they're too focused on their own shit, though.
Anybody that's ever criticised me in life, just take this podcast. If they criticise it, I guarantee you they haven't done 1 or 10 episodes of a podcast before. They've never hosted a podcast. They've never had to book guests. They've never had to do all this stuff, let alone have a conversation with someone in the public domain, in the public eye, you know, with thousands of people listening to it. It's not as simple as what people make out to criticize you. So anybody can come and criticize a clothing brand that's doing $30 million a year, but like, how many people could actually physically build one? The people that are criticizing are nowhere near the level of maturity in the mind to be able to go and build one, because they wouldn't try enough shit, because they wouldn't be willing to fail in the first place.
And that's, man, like, that's their place in life, right? Like, it's the weirdest generation we're living through, because we can love someone and criticize them at the same time, and we can appreciate someone and tear them down at the same time. It's a very confusing space to live in, but you have to develop a certain mental strength. You know, everyone wants to be successful, and everyone wants to. I want everyone's dreams to work out for them, but I don't think people understand like what happens when things start working out, like the pressures that you have to go through and the mental toughness you have to develop to see things through when it starts working out. That's why I was saying to, like, I realized I've programmed myself to get into like a really crazy tunnel vision throughout this process of building this machine. It's only when we stop and I reflect and have these conversations that I think about the journey. Because I really don't reflect on the past. To be honest,
you've got a plan of attack, haven't you? And you're just trying to kick every next goal that you're going through. Do you ever get a point then when you sit and reflect at all on your own and just sit in the stillness and allow yourself to really think through a lot of the stuff?
Yeah, I just don't. I do it and I try and learn. I try and learn from mistakes, but I'm really focused on the future. I really try and live in the present and focus on the future, and use some of my past experiences references. But your past becomes like a principle-based reference in your mind, right? So you're always comparing everything you're doing to that. But I try not to get too lost in that, because like one of the key parts of our story is that I ended up being negative $80K in debt with no real job. I think I was working 4 jobs to try and get by, whilst trying to keep the dream alive. But it's embarrassing, man. Like, at that point, I was ashamed, because I was like, fuck, man, like, I haven't done anything wrong, but things just weren't working out. Like people stole my dream. Like, I wasn't blaming everyone else, but I was blaming the circumstance. And I was just thinking, like, fuck, like, how could this happen? But at the same time, the other part of me was developing a tunnel vision where I couldn't be fucked with that drama. I was focused on getting myself out of the shit.
What was the pivotal point of you seeing a way out of the shit, though?
Yeah, tunnel vision. Like, I don't, like, not even thinking too far in the future at that point. Like, literally, like, waking up in a day, I remember, top of mind, I remember one morning, like, I was it's crazy, because, like, people say they get depressed, but I feel like you can be depressed and have energy and survival instinct at the same time. Like, I was in a space where I was, like, depressed to get out of bed. Like, it was hard, but I was like forcing myself. Like, I was determined. I was fighting through this, like, I guess, like a darkness to keep going. And that fight motivated me. It's like, it's really hard to articulate, because I feel like people can you can be in this negative space, but you can still push through. And that was just it was literally the thought process of, like, just taking one day at a time. And at that point, I was selling stuff in pre-sale. So I was selling product I didn't have, and I was hitting up people. I was like, man, like, I got these sick hoodies. I know you loved the t-shirts we did. We're restocking. People didn't know how bad it was, how bad it really was. You know what I mean? Like, and I just put on a brave face and hustled.
Is that how you'd advise most people then to start a brand, to like get the designs done, to set them up on the website, to pre-sell them out, and then go and get them made? Is that how you'd suggest, or how would you kind of suggest someone who wants to start themselves?
It's hard, because, like, these days, so many people ask me for advice on that exact question comes up all the time, and I don't really want to answer it, because I feel like that was my journey. And it was hard. Like, that's my reference, and it was challenging, and it was tough. And I don't know if I'd recommend it, but what I would recommend is to be clear vision on what the objective is. If you don't have a product to sell, delay the process for 12 months, get a job that's going to pay you good enough money, get the product and sit with the product in your mum's spare room before you sell something you don't have. Because there were other issues in that as well. Like when I was doing that, one of the factories I worked with that I had a trading deal with was if I, for example, would order hoodies, they'd give it to me, sell them, and I could pay for them, and then we'd rinse and repeat, right, to build up some equity and I guess some positive cash flow. Then it got to a point where they did the dog on me, and when I had raised to pay for the current balance and I had started pre-selling product I didn't have, they sort of they said they would fulfill the agreement as per usual, and then when I paid that balance of the previous stuff, they pulled the pin. They wouldn't support it.
Right.
So I'd already sold product and didn't have capital to pay for that product.
Yeah, for sure.
And so I sat in the situation. I was like, "Fuck, I don't have any money. Like, I've promised these people this product, like, and I couldn't fulfill it because the issue." So some people that are listening might think, "Well, you sold some product, but how come you didn't have money to pay for it?" The answer to that is because when you're buying production, you have to order a certain minimum order quantity.
Yeah.
So you have to order, let's say, 300 pairs of tires at a time. So even though I was selling 100, I still didn't have enough cash to pay for the additional 200. And the factories didn't fulfill. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. You got a lead time on that as well.
Yeah, it's crazy, and I think it's the wrong thing to do if you can't fulfill your promises and honor your commitments. That's one thing. That's another thing I've sort of focused and learned on. Like, why it was important for me to sort of commit to this time with you. You know what I mean? Like, if you make a commitment, you need to honor your commitments.
Yeah, no. Yeah, but again, on the other side of things, when you do make I understand in terms of you saying make a commitment to stuff like this and you want to honour it, and that's great. But then also on the other side of the coin, going back to what you said about quitting, it's also knowing when to quit as well. So there's kind of this grey area, you know, where you kind of there's an ethical part of it, but then there's also knowing when to back out of something that isn't right for you as well. So it's kind of it's actually more so about intuition, isn't it? It's about trusting your intuition. We all have it within us, but we all try and outsource our decisions too early, and sometimes we need to bring them back home to roost and really sit with them ourselves and see if it's right for us before we start operating in any way. Because a lot
100%.
Yeah.
I think we all have that, right? Like we all have this. We all have two voices in our heads every single day, right? We have those two opposing, conflicting thoughts. Whether which one do we follow? But one is always right, and I feel like often we just need to sit back and try and listen and learn which voice is the voice of reason and the right voice. And then if you can tune yourself into listening to that voice always, I think that's when you start getting on the right path. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, 100%. I bet you've learned a lot about yourself because obviously you've gone from 4 staff now to 40 staff, I believe, in the last 12, 18 months.
We're close to 50 at the moment.
You learn a lot about yourself when you employ that many people, and the kind of questions you ask and the way that you frame employing these people, because you're going to learn a hell of a lot by employing another 45 humans.
It's hard, man. Like, you sort of develop a responsibility for the guys that work, that are in your charge. And you have to have all the answers always. It doesn't matter what you're going through as an individual. If someone's coming to you with a problem, and that's the time most people always come to you when you're a business leader or a leader in general. Majority of the time people are coming to you is for you to help them solve a problem. But man, it's a crazy learning journey. Like you are forever learning and refining yourself and questioning yourself, but questioning in a good way. The journey has taught me a lot, bro. But I mean, I think we're all just trying to get through it and learn.
At what stage did you get to in Perth before you decided to flip the narrative and move it all the way to Sydney?
Man, Perth, like I love Perth. It was a good stepping stone. The thing about the Perth community is like people are very close in Perth, and I think it's one of the most supportive cities around. People will really jump and support small business there, and it's where we started. Like, I'm just thinking about all the memories when we're speaking now. But it got to a point where we grew, and then we couldn't do anything more. And what I mean by that is, like, you know, there weren't abundance of studios to work in. There weren't an abundance of models to work with. There is no fashion industry per se in WA. And then logistically, it was challenging because Perth is so isolated and far. It takes, you know, an extra 3 or 4 days for stuff just to get to the eastern states. Imports were a nightmare to get in. So we just wanted to chase the growth. We just wanted to take the brand and put it on in a space where the potential was endless, unlimited. So that's sort of, Matilda and I just sort of had this minute where we just thought about it, and we were planning it, and it just logically made sense, right?
Did you have like a short list, but obviously between Sydney and Melbourne, or was it just, were you always just going to go Sydney?
Oh, actually, it was Gold Coast, man.
You're actually going to come here?
Used to do, yeah. Matilda used to actually do fitness. She did a fitness competition, a bikini competition, and we actually travelled there for it. And we've been to Gold Coast quite a few times, and we love the vibe. Who doesn't love the Gold Coast, right?
Yeah,
like,
beautiful place.
Beaches, the environment, it's busy. Brisbane's lovely as well. So we flew over. She did the show. We spent some time around, and we actually made the decision to move to Gold Coast. That was going to be the step, or Brisbane at least. And then we got home or whatever, and she actually managed to arrange a transfer with her work, but it had to be to Sydney. It was the only eastern state city that could do it, because she had to still work full time for us to survive. There's no, at that point, she was still working full time.
So even when you're at the point where you had to move the whole business to grow, she still had to work a job.
Oh yeah, bro, because she covered the rent.
Wow.
She had to cover our rent, and I didn't start drawing a salary until probably 18 months ago for the first time. Really,
that's amazing.
I would just take what we needed to get by. But we reinvested every single cent back into the business throughout the whole process. And I only quit my full-time job about 6 months before we moved to Sydney. So
what were you doing full-time then?
Yeah, I actually worked in another supplement store. So when things didn't work out for me in my store, I launched Stax in 2015 as an e-commerce fashion brand, fitness fashion brand.
Yeah.
We dropped the muscle, we reinvented ourselves, became Stax. We dropped 2 colorway hoodies, and then brought in some trackies. I then did 3 colorways of tights, and I just sold all of that. And then I had to work. I worked at a supplement store full time. I worked at a server, the fuel station, those 24-hour delis. I would do like a 3 to 7 a.m. shift, go get ready, go into the CBD, work a 10 or a 9 to 6 p.m. shift, and then train and stuff at night. So days were long. And I did that for about probably another 2 years.
I love this though, because this really does paint the full picture of what it's like to take a brand from Perth to this kind of level that you're now seeing in Sydney. There's so much in it that people miss between the lines, that unless we have these kind of conversations, that you just never know that. So you worked 2 or 3 jobs. You didn't draw a salary until like 6 months into moving to Sydney.
Yeah, pretty much. So we decided to leave Perth, and I'm trying to think, like, we had a little apartment. It was a 2-bedroom apartment, but it was more like a 1-bedroom apartment. And when we first moved to that apartment, the spare room became the first warehouse. It was packed to the brim. We moved stock into the lounge room. Like, everywhere you looked around was just like product. It became unmanageable. And then when I started making a little bit of extra cash, we took on a storage unit, the biggest storage unit they had in the space, which was 1.5 size garage with no electricity or lights or anything. And we set up our little warehouse in that. We were so proud of that, actually. It's cool to think back on like the little things, like being able to get into your own space. Like for any entrepreneur, any brand that's doing their own thing, like the moment you can leave your house and you have your own space, doesn't matter what it looks like or the condition, it's such a sense of achievement, right?
Mate, just even to, like, you know, set out your packing area inside that little double garage, you know, so you can pack your parcels and put them in the post bag and all that stuff. It's all memories. It's all the journey, isn't it? That's where the juice is. I see your face light up when you talk about it.
Those are the parts you love the most. Then when we decided to move, and by the way, like Sydney's crazy with rent, man. Like our rent for our apartment doubled when we got here.
Yeah.
So, you know, shout out to Till for carrying us. Like, you know, at that stage, Stax was doing okay. It was able to pay for itself and grow. And by okay, I mean like, I think our goal for me to be able to quit my job was making $500 a day. You know, for me to comfortably quit $500 a day, and like that's not a lot, man, when you have to still pay for product, the website, the operation, and then you move to Sydney, and Sydney is expensive. Like it's not easy for young people in Sydney to get ahead and to do something, right?
So how much did you have a set goal as well when you pivoted from that garage unit into a warehouse? Did you have a set like earning amount per day turnover to be able to go and pivot into the bigger warehouse?
Yeah, from the apartment to the warehouse was like something like $200-$300 a day.
And
that's not a lot. Like that was just really true. And I was working full time. Till was working full time, and all we were doing is trying to make enough money to buy more stock. Because this is one of the things about running a product based business that I don't think a lot of people appreciate, is that you can't run a business if you don't have product, and you can't buy product if you don't have the capital. It's not like selling a service
and the lead time.
You don't have the luxury of having like you need product. It takes 8 weeks to comfortably get product in, you know. So what are you doing in those periods? So the hustle is immense. You can't articulate what it takes, in my experience at least. Maybe
it's not just lead time though, is it? It's also like seasons. You know, you're probably a few seasons ahead of where you've got currently released, and a lot of people there's so much in that testing period and creating the feel of the season that you're trying to create, and then you've got the lead time on getting that created and landing it in Australia or landing it wherever you're going to land it, your 3PL, wherever, however you're distributing it, and then the on time from that is the nuance. That's why I love talking to people like yourself, because you get to understand the nuance that people have between what they think is reality and what the real reality is. And like you're saying, landing product and then getting it out the door is a lot more moving parts than just simply order it here, 1 week later it's in your customer's hands. It doesn't work like that.
You know, we had a team meeting yesterday. I took the team out for a breakaway.
I saw the doodles. Shout out to Rebecca for making that.
I took the team out. We did our strategic planning and an opportunity to bond as a management team and come up with, you know, new generational concepts and ideas of how we want to operate. And then you sort of sit back and you look at these people, and my team's young, man. Like I strategically hired young people to start with. The first generation of Stax employees were super young, started at the bottom, and they're working their way up.
Yeah.
That was a design because I wanted them to sort of understand the process of starting at the bottom, and understanding the process and the DNA of the brand. So literally from pick packing into customer service into returns, and now from that phase, I've mentored and built absolute weapons. As marketing managers, PR managers, a warehouse manager
that understand the culture.
Manager. Yeah, but have a certain understanding for what we went through to get to this point. In the future, it will change. You know, we'll hire very intelligent, experienced people. But I wanted to start off this journey for us with putting in the effort into firstly creating opportunities for these young dudes, and setting them up with the insight of how the brand started, you know, from the ground up, so that there isn't a sense of like an entitlement or a sense of arrogance. Like, you know, the guys here are grounded, but they're working and they're innovative and young and dynamic.
So by taking them on at that age, you're teaching them how to think and solve problems on their feet, rather than ask you about how they solve every problem within the business, because they understand it, because they've been involved in every level.
That's the process. That's sort of been, I don't know whether it's right or it's wrong, but that's what's worked for us. That was something. It's something different that I wanted to do. I don't know why I wanted to do it. I just felt like I just wanted to create the first generation team of leaders within the business from the ground up, because I feel like it's special about the DNA of how we've started.
I think it's like similar model to what Gymshark took when they were starting out, and obviously and getting everything moving along there. I think they started out with a similar process. Like Noel Mack, who's head of brand at Gymshark, he started out as a videographer back in the day, just shooting videos for them. So everyone in that top leadership management team at Gymshark has come from the ground up process that you're talking about. There was a point, I think in the year 2020, it was reported that you grew 2,000% in a year. Now, obviously, I don't know whether that's a true figure. That's just what I've read. When you're growing 2,000%, is that just the difference of like putting paid ads between what you're already doing, or was there something special that you juiced up that much percentage of growth with?
Yeah. Look, so it was 2019, and that was at the pandemic just kicked off, right?
Right.
The figures are accurate. I think it's just under 2,000. I think it's like 1,800 or something like that. It's we just signed a deal with a seamless manufacturer, which is, seamless fabric is a new technology of doing fabrics. It eliminates seams, and it's just a more comfortable fabric to do. But the factories and suppliers will only do work for people like Gymshark or big brands that can order like 100,000 units at a time or whatever it is. So we weren't able to do it, but I eventually found a factory that we actually have partnered up with now, who literally are like our family. They gave us a shot, and they made us a collection. I designed this really cool collection, and they gave us the opportunity. And but we still had to meet a certain minimum order quantity. So Till and I literally took this risk, and we emptied, like, I can't even express like how broke we were at that point after emptying our accounts to buy this collection. And it was only a container worth of product. But then the pandemic hit, and we lost communication with the shipping company, and it took an extra 6 to 8 weeks for the products to arrive. But in that process, communication was gone, the factories were closed, people were in lockdown, because it hit China first, right?
Yeah.
And that's before we really knew what was up. Like, we really didn't understand, and it took about 3 months for China to peak before it really came into Australia, and then just went out of control here with restrictions, etc. So we ultimately lost the container for 4 weeks. We didn't know where it was. We didn't know when it was landing.
So zero communication with the factory. They just literally went off the radar.
Not the factory, more so the shipping lines. More so the shipping agents on that end. Because obviously when it leaves the port there, it's a process before it gets here. It takes about 4 weeks to get here. But we had no communication, understanding whether it made the ship, whether it was en route. Because usually with shipping lines, the tracking is not very accurate. It's not like DHL, whatever it is. It was stressful. It was a nightmare. So Till and I almost thought we were going to have to give it all up. That's how serious it was for us at that point.
And this was in 2019?
2019, yeah. I think it was. Yeah. Last year was 2020. The year before was when the pandemic hit. 2019, yeah. March. It was March. It departed in March, and I think we only got it in April. And this was Premium Seamless. Premium Seamless is one of our big collections. It has this crazy reputation. It's the collection that when it comes out, it sells out instantly, etc. But anyway, like all good stories or good tales, and the happy ending was that it ended up rocking up and we got it. But the second challenge to that was that we couldn't run the big campaign because we couldn't work with models. We were in lockdown.
That's a big problem, isn't it? Is that where Matilda was modelling all the clothes?
Yeah, man. That's when, because I'm the brand's photographer. We were lucky enough that I knew how to take some photos, and we managed to get a space, and we put up this really cool backdrop, and we did a campaign, the two of us, and she looked absolutely stunning. It worked brilliant. People would not have known it was an accidental campaign. We built something really spectacular. We sent products out to a lot of our friends, a lot of influencers. At that stage, it was just three of us working in the business, myself, Till, and Rebecca. We dropped that collection. We built the craziest online hype. We were just gifting influencers and trying to do deals. We weren't paying influencers. By the way, at this point in time, I don't think I was doing much with paid ads. I might have had a couple of paid ads on Facebook. I didn't do anything with Google at that point. I was just trying to wing Facebook ads manager myself. And we sold it, but our business model at that point was when we sell a product, it goes into pre-sale immediately. The craziest thing, we built this hype and we sold out, I think, in like 2 minutes. But the collection went into pre-sale and sold about 4 times more, I think it was, than the original allocation.
Than the pieces you'd originally ordered. So you not only sold out like X thousands of pieces, but you actually pre-sold 4 times as much on the back end.
Yeah, man. And that's when those crazy 2,000% figures started popping up. Because what we did from that immediately, it was almost a round of capital raise for us. It immediately gave us the capital to launch. And that's pretty much like the one pivotal moment where I think everything just sort of worked, because we went straight from that. We ordered the oversold product. People waited up to 8 weeks for it. No problems. No one had real issues with it. And that's how we pretty much launched with some cash in the bank. And that's sort of that big moment.
So every time you sell out a product, it flips over to pre-sale. So you've still got cash flow coming in whilst you're reordering.
Yeah, these days it's a bit different. Back then, that's how it happened. Nowadays, we sort of stick to the limited edition collections, and we have our core collections that people are buying. Our best black ties, for example, like, man, this product is crazy. It's like I pitched it to the team. It's like the Stax Apple iPhone or the Big Mac or the Coca-Cola that we have. It's like this one product that, I mean, I don't know what the analytics look like right now, but we're selling a pair every 60 seconds type of thing.
Yeah, beautiful. But is that the innovative seamless black leggings that are just a staple that all women have in their wardrobe kind of thing?
No, that one's not seamless. Seamless is the limited edition collection. So that's the one where we build 36 different products in the collection, and we bring that out probably twice a year. The best black is we've actually formulated our own fabric since. That we call Nandex fabric. It's a nylon spandex blend that we've customized, and that's our hero product. That's our baby.
When was the breakthrough moment though that you saw that you needed a standout hero product that was like the iPhone? What was the moment that came about?
I think it's learning, man. I think you assess the world's biggest brands and you look at what their proposition is, and you look at Apple, and they have their iPhone. Sure, they've had Macs, they started out with computers and whatever, but when you think of Apple, you think of the iPhone. Everyone has an iPhone. They have that one product. When you think of Nokia had that 3310 that everyone had. When you think of Macs, you think of the Big Mac. Sure, they have a catalog of other products, but it's like that. What's that one thing that will identify your brand? Or the one product that's identifiable that everyone needs. And for us, it's a pair of black tights. Every girl in the world needs a pair of black tights. So we looked at the proposition, and we looked at the competitors in the space, and we thought, well, we're a direct-to-consumer brand strictly. We can make it affordable. We can create a luxury experience brand at an affordable price. So girls don't have to go into the mall and go into shops that they might not be able to afford. They can wear black tights, the same pair of black tights that the celebrities are wearing. You know what I mean? It's not unachievable, and that was our thing. That's our thing. That's that one thing we've sort of built the brand around.
What's the price point of these leggings? Just so I know.
$75.
$75, and what I mean, how long would a pair of those leggings last a woman? Is it like 3 months, 6 months, a year, or what's the wear ratio of those?
Yeah, it's good question. I mean, I know girls are 12 months plus on them.
So it's not something you could put into a subscription, and you can't, like, do they get a new pair of leggings every 3 months kind of thing. I don't know those kind of analytics, but I was just thinking if it's a hero product, you could flip it into some kind of subscription, and they get the black leggings plus they get the some form of the new collection that you're releasing at that time in that 3 monthly subscription or whatever it is.
We've definitely looked at the subscription models, but we don't want to dilute the product as well, right? Like, we want to have it there when you're ready, you can come buy it. Like, we're not desperate to hit those sales or hit numbers. We don't want to feel like we're being forceful or feeling like we're desperate for you to come and buy our product. We want to enjoy this experience with you. Like, we want you to wear our best black tights, and when you're ready to come back and buy a new pair, it's going to be there. But we want you to focus on coming and picking up a piece of the limited edition collections, these special pieces.
How much time has gone into, like, the way that you package product, and how's that evolved for you as a brand?
Yeah, crazy. When you first start, like, everything is MOQs, and you're limited to the quantities you can afford. Packaging is everything, because it's the experience.
That's the experience that the woman has when she gets that.
It's a touch and feel.
Yeah.
Guys as well. Like, I don't know, I was having a discussion with the team yesterday about focusing on, like, looking at when you go shopping, and a lot of people don't understand, when you're buying designer, for example, if you walk into a Louis Vuitton or Prada, it's not about the value of the dollar. It's not the money you're experiencing. It's the experience. If you have a good sales assistant, they're going to give you a glass of water, and they're going to take you through the shopping experience. And you've worked hard to spend some money on a bag you might like. But when it's packaged in tissue paper and it's put into the box and put into the bag, and that whole experience is something that's been formulated and created, and that's what we love when we shop. So you have to think about how how can we do this in e-commerce? How can we bring this experience from online to our customers? And a lot of it's got to do with our packaging. We've got some cool packaging.
What would your, like, main piece of advice be in order to find the right thing for them in order before they start going out and creating this brand? Like, what's your feeling on and insights on how they can, like, discover what that is for them?
Yeah, it's a great question. I often get these questions on DM, being like, Don, I'd love to start a business. I really want to do e-commerce, but I don't know where to start. And it's something I think about often. And the only reference I have is my experience, right? I'll never preach. I'll never give advice that I don't take, because I'm not a mentor. I'm not someone that's here to teach people how they should do their thing, right? I'm trying to do the best I can for us. And I'm looking at a lot of these young kids that are selling e-commerce experience, how to build an e-commerce brand, how to grow an e-commerce brand from 500 to 5,000, and they're looking at drop shipping models. And I just can't. I don't see sustainability in building a brand if you don't have a product that you're passionate about. For me, the key is your product and your proposition. The key in any successful business, I think, is problem solving, right? Like, if you look at the world's most successful businesses, they've all created a product that solved a problem. Yeah. I don't think we've created a product that solved a problem, but we've created a product that fulfills a certain need. Every single girl on planet Earth wears tights at some point in their life, and everyone's favorite color is black for tights. So we've created a product that we think can fit in every girl or boy's wardrobe. That's our proposition. I love fashion. Matilda and I love fashion. Yeah. We love people. We love creating experiences for people. We want people that can't afford to shop at designer brands because of their situation. They can jump onto the Stax website and buy something, feel like they get the luxury experience when they engage with client services, or when they get the parcel in the mail. We try and create that experience, and we're passionate about our products and our experiences.
Because you obviously buy a lot of designer, like, because I've seen on Instagram you and Matilda do. Do you buy that designer as well as part of an experience so that you can bring that experience then into your brand? Like, is
100.
Is there any part of that you take straight and put it into what Stax do?
100%. I mean, first, we don't buy that much designer. Like, it's,
check his Instagram. I'll link it in.
It's just the highlight. It's the highlight reel, bro.
You look suave, bro. You look suave.
We do a lot of. We love the experience.
Yeah.
We don't. It's not about the money or spending the money. We often go. We've got relationships with a lot of the sales assistants there now, and we go in and have a chat about fashion. We actually went to Balenciaga today to look at a product, not to buy. We had a look. It's one of the new Gucci Balenciaga Hacker Collection collabs, and I actually got a product in that I'm interested in, not to buy, just because I am infatuated with the fact that Balenciaga and Gucci could come together and do collaboration as two brands. And we had a chat today about Demna Vasalia, who is the creative director of Balenciaga, who in Paris today. It's just a story, but he. He's the creative director for the world's most profitable and successful fashion brand in 2021, and he went to a restaurant and they wouldn't let him in because he didn't wear a button-up shirt. And I think my point was, one, it's cool to go into these stores to engage with people that love fashion and have discussions about this industry. And the other thing was, it was quite interesting that we live in a world where people still get judged for what they wear when it comes to going to a restaurant or a hotel. But back to the point. I think that we enjoy these experiences to learn, and we try and translate how we can create these experiences for our customers.
Yeah, no. I love the fact that you can go in there and see the experience that Balenciaga's putting on and bring some of that back into Stax. Do you know what I mean? Like in terms of that, like you say, it's interesting that people still get judged in 2022. Sorry, but it's kind of the nature. Everyone's going to have some judgment towards someone else, but usually that's a reflection of their internal dialogues anyway, isn't it? That's, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, it's confusing. It's and I understand code of conduct and I understand dress code and stuff, but I feel like in the world we live in today, I just don't get how you kind of get led into a restaurant because you're wearing a t-shirt. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. It takes away, in my opinion, the ability to express yourself as an individual, as an artist. Do you know what I mean? Like, yeah. But anyway, that's a crazy different conversation.
I think from what I've obviously, I know a lot of people that buy the luxury high-end type pieces, and I'm starting to understand it more from an artistic point of view, that they're buying the experience and the art rather than the flash and the pizzazz. I mean, there are a certain element of that happens, but I can understand why you go in there, because you appreciate the pieces that have been created and the method behind creating that piece and the collab that's gone with it. And that's something I've noticed with you, is that you're really interested in the brand and obviously the designing. So I suppose on that score, would you ever be willing to step back from your role as the ultimate leader of the brand, and put someone else in that position, so that you could then just focus on being the head of the brand and the creative type of stuff?
Yeah, good question. I'll just comment on fashion quick. The first part of what you said. I consider Stax a fashion brand. It may not be to some considered a luxury fashion brand, but it is a designer brand by principle, because we design everything, and I'm the creative director of the brand. So when people are wearing Stax, they're wearing our vision. They're wearing, when we drop a campaign, we put a lot of effort into the creative of the campaigns, tell stories, etc. So when our customers are buying these collections, they're buying into the story, and that's one of the things I think that a lot of people in fashion, or that buy design, don't quite understand. A lot of people buy fashion to flex, to wear Louis Vuitton, whatever it is, to show off, that I can afford a product that costs X amount of money. But a lot of people that are fashion enthusiasts buy it because of the art that it represents. Because at the end of the day, fashion is an art form. It is by principle created as an art form. It's the same as buying a piece of art or listening to your favorite music from an artist or whatever it is. So true fashion enthusiasts appreciate design and appreciate the creativity that go into it. Unfortunately, it comes at a price point, but it's not. Fashion should never be about the money. It should be about the appreciation of the art, in my opinion. My thoughts on the second part of the question. Look, I think I'm not naive, and I think that we all have to realize that, sometimes for something to grow into what it can become, you're not always going to be the best person for the job. When I think it also comes a time in a person's life when your priorities might change, and I think as a business grows, I had this discussion with a lot of my leaders in the team yesterday, actually, about we can't micromanage our departments. We have to let go for it to grow. Yeah. And yeah, I mean, I love what I do. I love running the business with an absolute passion every single day. It's my purpose. But I think that the day that it stops becoming fun for me, and the day that I start resenting it, and when I start, if it comes to a point where I just don't feel like I'm winning, I would be able to be mature enough to step back and find someone better to do it. Because you get to the point where, I guess for most business owners or founders, you realize we're all working for the brand. We're all waking up to work for it. The organism grows and it becomes its own thing, right?
It's bigger than you, isn't it, at all times?
It's way bigger, and that's crazy for your ego, man. Like, that can really fuck with your arrogance and your ego, because you get to the point where it's like you're flexing because it's all your designs and you built from nothing, but then like it gets bigger than you. Do you know what I mean? Like, I know people I've been in situations, awkward situations, where I'd be in a gym or a shopping center or for dinner or whatever, and people wearing Stax, and I think that they know who I am, or I think that maybe they realize that I designed that or made that, and I'd sort of try and say hello, but then they'd look at me like who's this creep trying to.
How do you manage and rein in that ego within yourself, like as someone who is uber successful and started to move ahead in life? How do you keep yourself in check?
Matilda and I call each other out on our shit all the time, man. Like, we often do introspection. Often we look at ourselves daily. Matilda's listened to a lot of podcasts now that speak about a lot of these things, right? Like, where we have to stay green to grow and remain grounded, and we always look at where we came from. I think.
What was the last thing she called you out on?
Good question. I think it might have been something like that. Actually, I think it was a situation where I was pretty rude to one of our contractors, not a supplier, but someone providing a service for us, right? Because they just weren't doing their job, and I get super passionate about trying to get shit done and making things work, and I was quite rude to this person, and she just called me out on it, and I ended up apologizing, even though I don't think I needed, or I didn't need to, but I wanted to, because I want to be that person.
I mean,
that's just at the top of my head, but I'm sure there's more.
we all have to go through that, where we all have to be like, remember that we all, that we don't, because none of us know essentially what that person's going through that day that they're performing what you consider to be a poor service, but then you can hit them with all this stuff, but then their mum might have died. Do you know what I mean? There's so many nuances that get lost in the translation. We've all got to remember at some point that everyone else is human, and we all have emotions that we're rolling with. Do you know what I mean? So I props to her for calling you, and props for you for apologising, but and also being willing to receive that kind of feedback.
I think we have to stay grounded, man. That's what I mean by, I remember daily. It's as if it was yesterday when, I think it's a bit of imposter syndrome, because we still feel broke and poor sometimes, and we still feel like things aren't working out, and we still feel like, we're just starting. People, you say, Stax is successful and whatever, but I'm looking at this year and I'm thinking about all the things we've got to achieve and the things we've got to do, and
I understand.
the same doubt and the same stress it's the same as it was 3 or 4 years ago. Like, so realistically, we try and focus on being the same people, and we try to remember where we came from, and we try to remind ourselves of what it was like when we had nothing, and that when you can come to terms with that, like, we're just not better than anyone, man. No one is better than anyone.
Yeah.
And then from the leader's perspective, like, I never want to be a person. I don't want people to ever think like, wow, this tax owner, he's such a dickhead. Like, did you hear how he went off at this guy? Or that's just by decision, not the person I want to be. We all got to check ourselves, man. Like, it's so easy to like get lost in the heat of the moment or get angry, but we need people around us to call us out, for sure.
Obviously, look, Matilda's listening to podcasts and obviously relaying a lot of that content to you. Is there any, like, terms of like books or resources that you kind of lean on that you could tell me about to kind of give the audience something that they can go and reference in terms of how you've grown personally yourself?
Yeah, I think it's funny. We just discussed it this weekend. When just before Stax really started kicking off, and I was going through that, I guess, my depressed phase when things weren't working out, I was doing a lot of independent self-study or self-research, and I was reading. I loved books about successful people who inspired me, that I wanted to be like, and so I read all of Richard Branson's books. Yeah. Autobiographies. I read Shoe Dog is my favorite book in the whole Phil Knight's book.
Yeah, it's an amazing story.
It's a crazy story. It's a very emotional book. But I read a lot of financial-based principle books, such as Richest Man of Babylon, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Love that. Love those.
Seven Principles of Highly Effective People is like a textbook for me. It's one of those books you don't need to read from back to front. You can read it in chapters.
The 7 Habits is a staple of everyone's personal development. Should be a staple. And The Richest Man in Babylon, like you said, I think. Well, that is such a short book to read. Everybody could consume that in an hour. Like it's such great. It just shows you how to operate and how to think about, you know, making money and using money and everything else. It's just a beautiful book.
Well, it kind of, it kind of goes back to what we spoke about at the beginning of our conversation about when we were in school. We as humans are taught to trade and hustle from an early day on. Yeah. You know, like your mum is trading with you from an early age. You know, if you do this, you'll get this. If you don't do this, this will happen to you. It's trade. It's commerce. We're programmed to think about it. It's not about the value of a dollar. It's not about finances. It's about principle-based thinking. You know, you work hard, you will receive.
Yes.
You know what I mean? It's these little things that we forget about, that I guess books like that remind us of and give us greater scope in. These days I'm not reading, I'm not listening to a lot of podcasts, only because I just want to give my brain some time to relax, man. Like at night or my own time, I just want to switch off.
I can understand that. And also, you when you're trying to move the way that you're trying to move, and you're trying to achieve the goals that I no doubt know are written on your pad and your goals list, you're at the point now where, you know, you've got the solid core of information in terms of the fundamental books. You've read them, you've got them down, you've done that. Now you're in action mode, and when you're in action mode, you can't be having a load of noise, lots of conflicting opinions and all that stuff. You just gotta action it and learn from the reps that you're making. It's not. Yeah,
you nailed it 100%. You nailed it 100%, because I used to in the early stage I used to be obsessed with Gary Vee and guys like Ed Milet, and I love Stephen Bartlett. But then you get to the point when you're practicing and you're doing it, you start disagreeing with them. You start, because you're starting to develop your own ways of doing things, and you're actually actioning it. So, you know, a lot of what they're sharing based on their reference and experience is different to yours. That's why I like.
You can become resentful of those type of people because they're at like the 200, 300, 400 million dollar a year business stage, or $500 million, whatever they're at, and then they're giving you advice at that stage about what you should be doing at 30, but they're not at 30, so they can't really no, it doesn't matter how much you try and articulate your journey today on this podcast, it won't be 100% accurate as to how hard it actually was at that particular time, and the struggles and how you're feeling and all this other stuff that all the nuance, everything that all these nuances that people get left on the fucking table that people can't understand, and it starts to become an annoyance when you're listening to someone like Gary Vee or Stephen because they start to piss you off, because then you start to think, I'm fucking not doing anything, but this is how I'm experiencing it, because they're talking from a level where they can no longer relate to how they actually really truly felt at the level when they're trying to talk to you at. There's no correlation. It just gets lost in translation.
Yeah, you 100% nailed it. Like, I'm not listening to business podcasts or people giving advice on business. I can't relate to that because you articulated exactly perfectly. You know, we have an interesting situation in our generation where because of some of those podcasts, you know, young kids are measuring themselves up against that exactly. So we're all thinking that we can be YouTubers, and we're all thinking that we can be influencers, and we're all thinking we can be CEOs. Yeah. But a lot of us might not be programmed to do that. We might be a great marketing manager or becoming a marketing executive or becoming a PR or whatever it is, but we're not pursuing those dreams because we're infatuated with the idea of becoming a single person. Yeah, man.
It's just hustle porn. Like, there's loads of it on Instagram. Like, you know, all about everyone's got to be an entrepreneur, everyone's got to be this, everyone's got to be that, and it just pigeonholes you into a box. Entrepreneur is a sexy word at the moment, but like there's going to be something else. Is it like, you know, metaverse? Something else is going to come along down the track. You know, e-commerce was sexy before crypto became the new thing. Before the metaverse became the new thing. Before NFTs. Before that. Do you know what I mean? So it goes in cycles, doesn't it? But the core principles that you've instilled in yourself are what I wanted people to understand, that you instill the core principles from these books within your life, and then you just go and try shit, and when you try shit and you fail a little bit, you tweak it and you go again, because your journey, Don, isn't going to be the same as Gary Vee's or this and the other. I mean, Gary Vee for a start started with a $60 million wine business and then flipped it into however many millions, or 6 million, took it 60 million. It's a lot easier to move 6 million because you've got a little bit of moving about money to 60 million than it is to go from your mum's bedroom to this, that and the other to $30 million. It's just a lot. Do you know what I mean? It's just a lot. There's a lot more to what you've done than what he did at that particular time.
Yeah, and I mean, I'm not throwing shade at Gary Vee, because the dude has inspired me so much, and I love his message, I love his story. I just don't want young people to listen to this podcast, listen to my story, and measure themselves up against me, and take what I'm saying as gospel and try and, you know, do what I've done, because that's my story, that's my journey. It's the fundamental reason why I don't do mentorships, and I don't do podcasts where I'm preaching on what people should or shouldn't do, or I don't do PDFs, or I don't do courses, because I'm not qualified to teach. You know, teaching people is, again, a principle-based learning experience. It's not you teaching what you've done to someone. Yeah, that's not education. And a lot of people are getting stuck in that space, and that's a bit scary for those young kids.
Yeah, 100%. And that's why when you said to me before this podcast, you said to me, Frankie, send me a list of like the kind of questions you're going to ask. And I said, look, Don, I don't do question answer podcasts. I do conversations, because conversations is what's missing in this space. There's not enough conversations. They're all like this, question answer. There's no nuance there. There's no feeling. You know, I want to talk to you about like how important it is having a supportive partner in your life. Do you know what I mean? Because obviously Matilda's been there for all this journey, and I would it have even been the same if you didn't have a supportive woman in your life?
Yeah, we wouldn't be here today, I don't think, at this level of, I guess, success, if it wasn't for each other. If I wouldn't be where I am today if it wasn't for her, to be honest. You know, it's funny because like when we first met, About 6 months, I just got in the exact, sorry, just from a timeline perspective, right? So within the exact same period, the business muscle Stax went, I guess, belly up at that point. I'd lost everything at that point. I just got in the exact same time out of a serious relationship. I was actually engaged, been married at that point.
Wow.
So that phase, I was just, man, like I was just gone. I was done. But I was soldiering through, like I mentioned, like, you know, every day I was just focused on getting through every day, you know, putting a smile on my face and just, you know, that's when I was listening to the podcast. That's when I was reading the books, and, you know, Gary's voice in my head, like, got me through. The guy's got the energy that just gets you going, like that, like there's value in those podcasts. I swear to God, like I was listening to him every day, and I was listening to Ed Miley. Like these guys were just, you know, their voice in your head was just getting you through, regardless if I disagreed with some of their principles. But then within, I think it was weeks, man, like I was working in the store, in a supplement store, and that's when she worked in recruitment for a recruitment company in the same building actually as mine, right next door. And then at lunch break she'd come through, and we sort of met at that point, and like whether it's divine intervention or serendipity or whatever it is, like it just was the right time, and it sort of just refreshed my focus and gave me something new to live for and something new and exciting. So, you know, when there was a lot of darkness, there was a lot of light. I was just participating what life was throwing at me, and sort of went with it without even realizing it. And yeah, she did not like Stax when we first got together. She didn't want to be involved in the fitness industry. She was quite against it because, like, you know, the fitness industry had its own reputation, and she didn't love the first range of products I did. But it kind of like forced me to work harder, and eventually she just fell in love and became obsessed with it, and it became our thing. And she'd work full time, and weekends we were hustling at gym pop-ups and, you know, doing these little activations in Perth and doing photo shoots on weekends and getting kicked out of locations where we were shooting illegally. And the journey for us, the journey means something completely different. And I think support is everything, man. Like,
I think it's beautiful the fact you've done it together.
I think so too, and a lot of people can't comprehend how you can work with your partner. And I don't think it's for everyone. I don't think everyone should look at Don and Till and be like, I want to work. Like, a girl shouldn't go to their partners and be like, I wish we could start a business together and make it work. You can't compare that. Like, it doesn't work for everyone. It's just one of those unicorn things where we share the same interests in most of everything and have developed the same values and have shared the same values and work ethics. You know, I don't have a clear answer for like how it works, but it just does.
Yeah, no. I just wanted to bring it in because I think it's so important that, you know, people understand that, you know, for a couple to achieve this together in this high stress environment and everything like that goes on in this space, it's like it's
not easy.
It's a testimony to you both,
Frankie.
It's a testimony to you both. You know.
I'll just add to that. You know, it's you know, hats off to her because with my kind of work ethic and drive, like I get super focused and my brain operates at a crazy speed, and I can become tunnel vision. But she has a certain strength and confidence where she can just pull me out of that as well. And like I said, call me out of my shit, and put up with a lot. But we've grown to really align and strengthen those things that just make this whole experience work. You know what I mean?
Yeah, no. And then I just wanted, the reason why I wanted to bring it in as well is not just to show, so you could show your appreciation as to how much she's brought to the brand, because I wanted to make sure she was included in this because she's such a pivotal part of it. But not only that, but I just wanted to give people a real insight into the fact of, like, you know, a strong, healthy relationship where you work together and you take each other forward and you grow together. It is something that is still available in 2022. Do you know what I mean? Because we see a lot of this other stuff going on around us, and it kind of takes us away from, you know, this kind of stuff, and I want to showcase that as well. But if there's one, like, if you had to check out the world tomorrow, just check out completely, you know, you're gone, you can't take nothing with you. If you were going to leave like one solid piece of advice that could just live on through the testament of time, what kind of words would you leave for the people?
Wow, that's deep, man. I just think it's probably my legacy of, if you have a dream or a vision, and it's clear to you in your mind, and you don't have a timeline or a deadline, and you're passionate about it, you got to see it through. You got to work on it, work on yourself, and never give up. But if it's not right for you, you need to know when to give up.
Yeah, I love that. I love that end bit as well. It's like knowing when to flick the switch on something else and flick it on something else. Look, to be honest, I think I found my passion in terms of podcasting and stuff like that, and I think you found yours in terms of designing fashion stuff. And I think you guys have done an epic job. And thank you so much for coming and dropping your wisdom on the podcast today. I appreciate it so much.
I think this is certainly my favorite podcast I've ever done, man, and I think it's a testament to your energy and your vibe, and I'm just grateful for your time and the opportunity, man. Thank you so much, bro.
Mate, maybe you understand why I was hitting your DMs at pace.
I love it. No, I appreciate it, man.
Do you know what I mean, man? No, but honestly, guys, and if you can do me a favour, drop us a like on YouTube, share the content on Instagram. Obviously, I'm going to drop Don's Instagram on the bottom here and stuff like that, contact details, all that. Drop him a message, let him know how you felt about it. Drop me a message as always. Guys, thank you so much for your support. That was Don, that was Stax, and much love.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Frankie Lee's podcast.